Hi, my name's James Lloyd-Jones. I'm the founder of a company called Jones Food Company, which builds large-scale vertical farms, which we own, operate, grow, sell produce, and then look at the technology and see if we can do it better effectively. I set the business up just at the back end of 2016 to look at vertical farming in a slightly different way to most people have done in the past, and it's to do with the scalability and modularity of vertical farms to bring the capex down. Vertical farms have been horrendously expensive in the past, with £2,500 per square metre as a norm, and our view was we have to automate, use resource efficiently, and grow at a price where everyone can afford, and be able to get the product into retail. So this is a snapshot of inside one of the farms. So at the time, we were Europe's largest vertical farm with a growing area of total 5,120 square metres, which we optimise 84% of. Leaving us an actual growing area of where the plants are of 4,106 square metres. Because of the module design of the facilities, we're able to buy a building or lease a building and roll them out quite quickly. And the facility that you're looking at here, or the germination room, was built in Scunthorpe, which is in North Lincolnshire, was done in just under 8 months. So from October 2018, we have been doing the test crops, and then from November 2018, we have never switched off supplying, in this case, leafy greens to a food-to-go company making 11 million sandwiches a week. The main challenges on vertical farming is the use of resource, so electric and water and inputs, which have always been expensive, and that includes labour. So when I set the company up, it was very much to ensure that we automated as much of the process. We went at scale, so you can bring down the capex, and then we had to really understand the OPEX. So you want to know your price per square metre that you're growing, and also the kilogram price, how much it costs. Otherwise, you'll go out of business. We were written about in February 2019, and that gained some interest, one of which was a company called Ocado, which is a technology company based in the UK who have a automated online supermarket shopping platform, which they run under the same name in the UK, but they have international expansion, running 50 plus customer fulfillment centres. They took a stake within Jones Food, and it was very much in the future to co-locate vertical farms next to online supermarket fulfillment centres, so customers could click a fresh produce, have it cut, harvested, and in their delivery truck within an hour slot. So you capture the freshness, you bring down the supply chain considerably, and all round, bring a huge lot of efficiencies. We're year-round British produce, as you can more than likely understand, because the facilities are on 365 days a year. This facility will be completely carbon neutral in May next year, and that's by using solar energy with backup of large-scale utility batteries. It helps the OPEX, number one. Before we start talking about the benefits of the environment and things, the OPEX, you're able to then gain long-term PPA prices, or if you own the renewable asset, you can pay it off over 10 years, and your power price per kilowatt hour is dramatically reduced, which helps the economics of vertical farming. So, challenges we faced in vertical farming is in significant employment expenditure. And where this comes from, it's such a new industry, as Michael touched on in his presentation. Really, since 2009, Japan really exploded after Fukushima nuclear disaster. So there isn't thousands of people with huge benefit of time served within vertical farming. So you have to kiss a few frogs, get a few consultants that you don't want, and move forward. But then you have some very clever guys that get what vertical farming and what we want to do. The high energy cost is always the killer for most vertical farms, and that's where you've seen the high profile bankruptcies go, either with too much labour or high energy costs. And I touched upon it by being completely carbon neutral with your own renewable assets. Brings down the price per kilowatt, but also it's good for the environment, it's good for your story as you're packing the product and sending it out. And water scarcity. We don't have a problem with water scarcity in the UK per se. However, vertical farms do allow for closed capture systems with the right technology. So you're able to ensure that you're capturing your rainwater, which I'll talk about on the next slide, your macro humidity in the growing rooms, and your micro humidity at the tray level, as well as being able to capture all the water that's nutrient rich, that is fed to the plants, and what the plants don't take up is captured. So we at the facility in Scunthorpe, it uses the same as a 2-bedroom flat in total, which is not bad for an area that, if you took it all apart, is 26 tennis courts are growing all the time. And then automation. Automation is really key to us at getting over some of the challenges. As I mentioned, employing people is a headache. They're close to the crop. You've got human points of failure. So we've invested heavily in automating the plant factory, as it were. We've taken a lot of lessons from the automotive industry. We see differently that the vertical farms have to run at scale to get the economies of scale and be able to sell at a price that retailers are happy to buy. And we do that through automation. So moving the tray, the seeding, the harvesting, the tray washing, where the trays get moved is all automated, and it cuts down on mistakes, and it has huge efficiency improvements. It's incredible. The new systems we're building are slightly bigger. They're at 14,000 square meters in growing space, but we get a 26% efficiency gain with the new automation. Building big, it's about the economies of scale. If you can make these cookie cutter systems with the scalable modularity that we've designed, which is able to then bring down the capex costs, you're able to then make vertical farms run profitably. And it makes it a no-brainer over a large-scale vertical farm, say over a greenhouse. And that's our goal, is to make vertical farming very key within the agricultural supply chain by bringing the price parity with the local market, either field grown or greenhouse grown, and still giving you a very profitable ROI. Renewables. So I've touched upon the renewables. We use our own assets initially on the building, and that gave us 10% of our annual energy use. But on the first unit, but on the subsequent units that we're building now, they're carbon neutral from the very start in their design. And from May, as I mentioned, we'll be carbon neutral at JFC1, which was so. Rainwater harvesting. If you can bring down your costs of substrate, your seed by doing cut and come again, you're using inverted pumps, high vac systems and the like, you're really starting to understand your electricity costs. But water can be extremely expensive where you are in the world, and also it can be very wasteful if you're just putting it down the drain. So this is a snapshot of a simulation, it was a digital twin that we did of Scunthorpe. So you've got a germination room there, which is 1,300 square meters, and that's got all the rooms are temperature controlled, and That's 25%, 25 degrees, 99% relative humidity. The growing room has a 1 degree difference from top to bottom, and that's over 12 meters or 17 stacks high. And then you've got the processing area. So effectively, we're able to capture the water from the humidity from the transpiration of the plants, capture the rainwater harvesting. So this building is in North England, so we do get a little bit of rain, and we capture that and store it in large tanks, and we have about 70,000 litre tanks, 70,000 litres worth of tanks around the building. And rainwater is soft, it doesn't have to go through reverse osmosis, and it can be blended, it goes through a process of cleaning first before it's blended, and it goes into the water tanks, which are in a captured room. We have just over 220,000 litres of water within the system at any one time. So unit price in the UK is about £1.70 a cube per cube. So by using a couple of cubes a day, our rainwater cost is very low. It's also very good for the environment, and by capturing all the water from the runoff with the fertilizer and it not going down the drains, it's not going near the water courses, because most modern agriculture, specifically large-scale traditional farming, poisons about 70% of the world's fresh water. So every year we collect about 530 cubes of rainwater, which is good to have as a buffer or a top up, especially this summer where we had not very much rain, where we had water still in the system. And then it again goes towards the CO2 that we are saving in water production of clean drinking water and chlorinization. We think it's about 190 kilograms of CO2 emissions we're saving by taking out the rainwater. So not only, again, in the same way we're talking about the environmental benefit of renewable energy, but it's another environmental benefit of capturing as much water as you can. Of course, you get a sulfites and build up in the system with it being so closed loop and constantly recirculating, but we use reverse osmosis machines to remove those, and they go off in an IBC once a month for further treatment. And effectively, the rainwater is captured, in this case, off the roof, and we're doing another upgrade where we'll be able to capture the grey water from some of the cleaning machines and use chlorine to chlorinate it, kill everything, then dechlorinize it, and then put it back into the rainwater tanks ready to go through the system that we have patented, which allows for the closed loop way that it works. So this is a picture of one of the roofs with the solar that we put on, which gives us about 10%. 97.7% of energy-related CO2 emissions reduction. So if you're selling your product, then you have a real understanding, the customer now has, of where their food comes from, and the younger generation want to know that there is a good story as well as benefits behind buying your product. So I'm very conscious that people on this at this conference are thinking about vertical farms, but you can become part of a vertical farm or an integrated supply chain, and you can do it in a good way for the environment, which drives sales towards your product, because more environmentally aware consumers will see your vertical farm produce being used. Now, it's quite interesting, our systems. We don't really talk about it. We don't really go into competitions. We stay away from most press if possible. Sometimes we have to do it because of some of our shareholders. But vertical farming can work, and it can genuinely be part of the agricultural supply chain by following some key principles, we believe, and of which are solid and robust automation. number one. So you can have machine learning and everything that adds in, but understand what you need from the plant, which is a balanced lighting, good nutrient delivery, and good seed. And I remember a question that came up earlier, how do we keep pathogen down and seed? Well, you can treat seed before it goes into the vertical farm. So if you keep your whole environment clean, you're going to reduce your crop failure, and you're going to reduce your crop failure even greater by ensuring that you're doing environmental testing. So we test our crop and make sure there's no E. coli and salmonella for the crop, and then we make sure there's no TBCs, enterococci, and things in the water, and we do that in a live way now. It's an incredibly exciting industry. I think you have to ensure that you have a very good grasp of your operating costs as well as your capex costs, because when you're looking to raise finance, some financiers like infrastructure funds will want offtake agreements to ensure that you can get rid of your product. But vertical farming is already, and we're proving it, for instance, it is at a price now where it is matching local markets. So we're able to supply own brand or white label produce. Our produce, as I said earlier, has been going into sandwiches for a long time. So the public already are eating vertically farmed produce at a large scale. But in the future, by rolling out vertical farms at a very competitive capex and opex, you'll be able to ensure that you get market share and be part of the food chain. A couple of things though, it's worth noting that leafy greens, salads and things are probably the low-hanging fruit within vertical farms, and it's an easy way of beating the industry up, saying that's all they can do. It's not. We've got to look at the economics. Leafy greens and salads can keep the lights on, as it were, and pay your investment, and that gives you greater time to go into things that we're looking at, which are strawberries, cut flowers, medical plants, and that doesn't just mean cannabis. It could be sage that's used in Alzheimer's as an active ingredient, cosmetic industry. We've even looked at like apple trees and things, or how you do that on an economic way. We don't see vertical farming taking much away from commodity crops such as wheat, rice at the moment. Mainly because the commodity prices, when you're paying in the hundreds of pounds for a ton, that's not where vertical farming works. Well, vertical farming allows you to mitigate importing, grow in the local market, remove your FX issues from imports, and grow perishable or high value crops where you can get it to the consumer quickly. So it can do lots of things. We grow radishes just because I like them, so we have some trays that are always full of radishes. You can grow turnips and all sorts of things on it, but it is important to be fully aware of your system, your renewables, and your costs.